Okay, well, this is really the last topic relating to users and groups that this segment will cover, and this is known as the umask. Now, we talked earlier about we asked the question, what dictates what the default permissions will be on a file or a directory when they were created? And the umask is what controls that. So the umask basically says the permission bits that should be removed from newly created files and directories. This umask is inherited from the parent process. Processes can change their umask with a system call. The shell usually gets a default umask from a shell initialization file. Well, okay, great, that was fine and dandy. Let's go back to our machine here and take a look. So let me look at our users again. So I've got a user called Sally, and let me shrink this down a little bit so we can make sure we're seeing what we want to see. All right, so I have a user called Sally, sudo su minus Sally, and I don't remember her password, but anyway, I'm logged in as Sally right now. Here's some files, nothing, so let's do touch some file. So notice it got these permissions. If you remember, that is 664. Should be able to say that in octal mode or symbolic mode and understand what those are. So let's do the umask command. So the umask is 002. Umask is not their permissions. The umask is what should we remove from the permissions in order to get, or what should we remove from the default permissions in order to get the new file permissions. So if you look closely at this, and essentially the default file permissions always start out as 666. So we're saying, if I look at this 0, that means don't remove anything from the 6. Don't remove anything from the default of 6. This one says remove the 2 from the default of 6. Well, remember the 2 is the read permission, so it's the write permission, so we're left with just a read permission. If I were to change her umask to something like 037, so now that's her new umask. I'm going to touch a new file, b.txt or something. Notice her permissions are different, or the permissions on that file are different. So how did we come up with that? Well, and we're ignoring this one again, because that just refers to what I want the set UID, set GID, or sticky bit to be. So this one says, what do I do with the default permission? Remember, the default permissions for a file are going to be 666. So to the user, I'm not going to do anything with that first 6. So we'll just bring that 6 down here, and that's how we have 6 for the user. Now, for the group, we're saying, I want you to remove a 3 from a 6. Now, remember though, a 3 though is really a write and an execute. So we're going to make sure the write and the execute bits are not set for the group permissions. So we're just going to leave the read permission set. Awesome. And when we have a 7 in the umask, that says we're going to remove the read, we're going to remove the write, we're going to remove the execute bits all from that other permissions, and that's how we get this. Now, if she creates a directory at this point, whatever, and let's look at the directory permissions. Well, remember her umask was 037. So for a directory, the default permissions are 777. Okay, so we'll start off with the 7 for the default. So we're saying with the user, don't remove any. Leave the 7 alone. So leave that 7 alone. That's why I got a 7 up there. For the group, it says remove, once again, remove the write and the execute bits. So we're just left with the read bit on for the group. And then for everyone else, we're saying get rid of the read, get rid of the write, get rid of the execute bits. And so that's why we don't have anything else there. Let's change this back. Let's go to umask 002 or something like that. And I'm going to make a directory, whatever, Faz. Now let's look here. All right, so how did we come up with that for that directory? Remember, a directory, we always start with the starting permission bits we start with are 777. So I said for the first user bits, don't take away any of them. Don't touch it. Just, it's fine. The 7 is fine. So we left that. The group, we said this 7 is fine. For the other, we said, you know, from that 7, I want to get rid of the 2, which was the right. And so now the right bit is gone. And so we're just left with the 4 and the 1, which is read and execute. So that's what umask is. Now the last part of this is how do I get the default umask? And if we look back at our slides again for 1 second, it's inherited from the parent process. But the shell usually gets a default umask from a shell initialization file. So if you recall over here, maybe, if I look in her dot profile, remember the profile in bash rc, these are some files that are executed when a user logs in and that sort of thing. We'll look down here. So it says right here, executed by the command interpreter for login shell. So anytime this user logs in, this file will be executed. Well, I have a line right here that's commented out that sets the umask to 022. So I can just uncomment that, and I'm going to save my changes. I'm going to log out and log back in as Sally, and her umask is 022. And that's the only way to make it persist. So if I say umask, I'm going to set hers to 037 again. It shows as 037, but as I log out and log back in, it's back to 022 because of that profile, or the dot profile. Now, if you wanted to set the umask for all new users, remember, you have to do it before you create the new user. You'd have to edit the Etsy scale dot profile in order for new users to set their umasks.